If you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
This has been another episode sponsored by Online Horse College. If you haven't had a look at the wide variety of equine-specific accredited courses, then go to onlinehorsecollege.com and I'll see you over there. Today's guest is Darlene Svamvur. Darlene's a dressage, show jumping and eventing coach and trainer. She's also an active show jumping competitor. She enjoys supporting her students to ride, to be more confident in life and overcoming personal challenges. How are you, Darlene?
I'm good. Yourself?
Excellent. Darlene, we normally start off with a favourite quote. Have you got one for us?
I sure do. So one of the things that I've heard all through my riding career, and definitely something I teach, is you can only truly understand what you're doing when you complete the circle of knowledge. This is learning, doing and teaching.
Yes. Okay. And I know, you're on the horse or you're teaching sometimes and you almost have to go through it in your mind. What would I be doing right now in this situation? And this is what I can tell my student to do.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And I think you only fully appreciate something when you have to try and explain it to someone else how to do it.
For sure. Darlene, how did you start with horses? What are your first memories?
So my start with horses was due to immigrating, and that was around the struggles around immigrating specifically. And what my parents actually chose to do was to get me into horse riding to socialise me, for lack of a better term.
Okay.
And through that, I needed an outlet. My first memories was a horse called Paddy. He was a horse that I learned to ride on, very fond memories of him. And it was around the lunging, my first few lessons of being on a horse, feeling so happy and on top of the world and learning these new skills.
Now, how old were you when you emigrated?
So I was 10.
Okay, and where from?
South Africa.
Okay, just so I could pick up a little bit of an accent but couldn't quite get it.
Yes.
So you remembered the lessons on Paddy and you felt, because I talk to some people and they almost shudder when they talk about their early experience with horses, getting on horses just in a paddock with no saddle or bridle. But your lessons with Paddy, they were on the lunge and you learned to ride and you felt quite safe in that environment then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was a riding school environment. My mum, when she was of a similar age, she had also been in a riding school environment. So she put me straight into that scenario because she had done well with that and she wanted the same for me.
Good. Now, going on then to become a coach, what made you decide that you'd sort of obviously gone out, competed, done well, that you wanted to start teaching people? How did that come about?
That was because of my coach.
Okay.
He always guided me to be able to pass information on, whether it was back to him or other students that happened to be in the lesson. He was always encouraging me to say, okay, now if you were to teach this, how would you explain it? Or what would you do differently? Or how might you say it differently? So right from a very early age, he was there encouraging me to coach. And so becoming an instructor just for me felt natural. It was the direction I wanted to go. I'd seen the benefit in it helping me and helping others within the riding school, and I wanted to be able to give back in that way.
And what a great mentor to have a riding coach that's encouraging you to coach and encourage. And that would also have helped with your socialisation and everything else, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, he was one of a kind.
There's so much more to horses than just riding, isn't there?
Oh, there certainly is.
Okay, now, Darlene, if someone would like to start and have a career with horses, thinking about your students, what would you tell them? What are the core skills and character traits they should have before they start?
Some of the things I'd say is you have to have resilience, patience and time. You've got to appreciate that your partner that you're working with is an animal. You don't speak the same language and it takes time to build that relationship. So those core skills that I say, patience, time, some resilience, because you have your highs, you have your lows. like you would in any human relationship, it's the same when it comes to horse riding, because you are working with an animal, and quite a large one at that.
Yes, and a quite often unpredictable one.
Temperamental. They can definitely be temperamental.
Okay, Darlene, thinking about horses, what's the best thing about working with horses?
Oh, I love watching my riders and my horses accomplish something. And it doesn't matter whether it's just a simple movement, jumping a jump, or overcoming a challenging feeling, like a fear with cantering, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But watching either the horse and or rider work through it and come out the other end, that for me is the most rewarding feeling as a coach.
Yeah. Tell us now, you talked about your instructor, the coach. Is there anyone else who's influenced you and sort of helped you along, or was he just the main person that got you going?
He definitely got me going, but like in the horse industry, we're very fortunate. There are a lot of people around and so many knowledgeable people around as well. Mm-hmm. So I've got two coaches who I still get lessons from, so I never stop learning. So I have Ben Netterfield, who I regularly have lessons with, Paul Williams. I've also got the support of my local jumping branch, so who I'm a committee member of. So we've got Andrew, Barb, Karen. It's a community. Yep. And without the community, I wouldn't be as successful as I am. I wouldn't have the support that I have. And often with these people, I'm travelling around the state, competing, going to clinics, doing what I need to do to further better myself, but also better myself to be able to better some of my students.
Yeah, for sure. And what about competing on one horse at the moment, or you've got a couple?
I've only got the one horse that I'm competing at show jumping, and it's funny because I started with a chestnut off the track thoroughbred who taught me so many of the skills now, and I seem to have done a complete 360, and I'm back to an off the track chestnut thoroughbred.
Yeah. What's his name?
His name's Manny. His paddock name's Manny, but his racing name and competition name is Amani. Uh-huh. And he was bred on Flinders Island, was raced within the Sprayton region of Tasmania, and he was a little bit too smart for the track. He just always ran for the gate rather than running around the track. So I was fortunate enough to get him as a 3-year-old. He's now a 6-year-old, and he's comfortably competing at 1.10 m. And this next season, we're looking at moving up to about 1.20 m. So very skilled, very willing, and certainly a very special horse in my heart at the moment.
Now that, like you sort of said it as an offhanded comment, but I'm sure it would have been a bit more than that. Him going back to the gate, did he do that when you first got him?
Oh, yes. So when I first started working with him in the arena, I was cantering, and next thing he was just pulling towards the gate, and my right rein wasn't quite working as well as it should have been. And it took me a few months just focusing purely on the flat work and teaching him. And when he started understanding that we weren't just running in a circle every day and that we got to do different things, he went, oh, this isn't all that bad anymore. So, I'll actually listen to that right rein now. Yeah,
because you said it almost as an offhanded comment, but, it obviously stopped him racing. And it would have stopped a lot of other riders as well, So what sort of things, and thinking of training a horse, so you said, that you stopped just going on circles, but what particularly do you think was the key to getting him being so nappy towards the gate?
Well, one, I changed his bit to good old FM, let's turn the face rather than pulling the bit through his mouth.
Yes.
But also in the training, so I did a lot of groundwork, just getting him to do that response to the shoulder aid and the leg aid, and trail riding. I spent 2-3 months. I donkeyed him off my stock horse initially and just took him out trail riding him, getting him exposed to different things around my property. I'm very fortunate. I've got some reserves near my place, so taking him out there, having a lovely moment where my stock horse scared an albino wallaby. He was completely fine. My thoroughbred was fine. And basically just giving him variation. That was the key to his training. He was so smart. He just needed that variation in his day-to-day routine. And even now, I cannot do something 2-3 weeks. Otherwise, I notice him starting to ignore my rein.
Yep. All right, now that's got to make you proud, just the fact that you've got him over that and you're out competing. Is that your proudest moment with horses, or have you got something else that you'd like to tell us about?
No, my actual proudest moment is one of my students, and this is a recent, because I've had lots of proud moments over the years, but most recently I had one student who started riding with me about 2 years ago now, and she got on the horse and she screamed. A fly landed and she just was terrified, but she wanted to learn to ride within herself. She was a young girl and she just desperately wanted to ride. That first lesson she screamed, and she actually entered a local agricultural show in a 40-centimetre class a couple of months ago.
Oh, wow.
And that was my proud moment. In 2 years, I went from a little girl who was terrified to a little girl who now I can't stop her cantering, I can't stop her jumping. She just loves the horses.
It's lovely to see that progress, isn't it? Because it's like we were saying before, there's more to horses than riding, that even though you can see the progress in a riding, just her psychological development has come a long way.
Oh, it has.
So thinking, Darlene, about, where you are now, because you sort of, you have got your horses and you're competing and you've got students making great progress. What do you think has been your biggest challenge, and something that you can tell other people that are thinking about becoming a coach? What's been a challenge that, you've almost thought, oh, is this for me? Or, just tell us a bit about anything like that.
It's the balancing act of life. So I am only a part-time coach. I would love to do it full-time, but it's very much a passion job. So you do it out of love as opposed to a big money earner. And so for me, it's finding that balance. I work full-time. I coach part-time. I'm still learning myself. You never stop learning. So making sure I'm still learning to be the best person that I can be, and also competing. I mean, you go through the show season, especially down here in Tassie, you've got a 6-month very, hectic schedule, and it's, wow, how am I balancing all of this? And that's long days, short nights. That's the biggest challenge, and it's a fine balance, but it is also a rewarding balance.
Yes, for sure. Wait, can you hear anything? No? That's because we're waiting for someone with a good quality horse product to be advertised here. If that's you, then contact us, horsechats@horsechats.com, and we'll send you the details. Thanks. Okay, now thinking about when you go out to shows, particularly show jumping, and you as a coach, I'm sure you'd see a lot of riders riding courses, warming up, doing exercises. What's a common fault that you see with riders that you can talk about today? And because we also want to know about how to fix it, our listeners are here for their education as well. So what's a common fault and how would you go about fixing it?
One of the things that I see more in the practice ring, just before you're going into the actual class, is people over jumping their practice jumps. I understand if you're having a couple of issues and you just need to get them over, but I see riders go through jump 10, sometimes 20 jumps just in that practice area. And it's like, oh, was that necessary? Is your horse going to be a little bit fatigued? And just that thought process of you've got another 3 classes today, and if you're doing that in that practice area, should you be doing it at that point in time, or should that have been a couple of days before in a lesson to work through that issue? So just that ring etiquette, I find is something that I do probably take note of the most.
Do you think it's lack of education on someone's part if they're going to put a horse over that many times, say in their first, the first competition? Because as you say, there could be 2 or 3 more competitions, and that's quite a lot of jumps for a horse, particularly one that may only get ridden on the weekends or not be as fit as what the riders may like to think.
I think it's actually a little bit of human nature. Sorry, ambulance going past. It's human nature. It could be nerves. They could just be really nervous and want to build their own confidence up. It could be maybe they had a very worrying around prior to that. Maybe they've seen a jump while walking the course and gone, oh, I'm a bit worried about that. And so they'll practice and practice and practice. And it may be partly education, but we are very fortunate. There are great instructors here in Tassie, and most of them know the right thing. And it's just a reminder going, oh, hey, listen, how's your horse jumping? Yeah, good. Oh, excellent. When's your class coming up? Oh, shortly. It's like, oh, okay, let's just walk around and, let's focus on the class coming up.
Yes.
And they go, oh, yeah, okay then. So they're very understanding when you do bring it up.
Yep. Yes, and sometimes if you do it subtly and do it to educate people rather than to belittle them, that's a much better way of just reminding people about ring etiquette.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, now, Darlene, have you got a book that you could recommend for our listeners?
Yeah, I've got 2 books which I've read over the time, and it's interesting because there's some great books out there with information and technical information, but a couple of the books that I'd recommend are actually writer biographies, and one of them was Jill Rolton's Free Rein. So as we know, Jill Rolton's an eventer who did very well at international level and represented Australia on the Olympic team. And just reading her story and how she got to where she got was an absolutely fantastic read and inspiring, as well as Bev Buckingham. So she's a Tasmanian jockey. Again, her book's called Beating the Odds. And while she was coming up to become a jockey, she had some particular challenges being a female in a primarily male-dominant world and what she had to do to earn the respect of her fellow colleagues. Again, a very inspiring story.
And both within the horse industry, but as you say, the autobiography or the biography is a bit of a different read and gets you to know someone just a bit more and facing challenges, because sometimes you see people at the top and you think, oh, they've just had it so good, and you don't realise the challenges that they've had on the way up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They all face their own issues, demons, challenges, financial woes, personal woes, and at the end of the day, they are humans and they're facing what you are possibly currently facing, potentially could face or have faced in the past.
And remember, you can find all the books recommended by our guests at horsechats.com/books. You can have a look at the guest page for the individual book they recommended, or just look at the recommended books by order of popularity at horsechats.com/books. Yes, and helps people who are facing that, just helps them have a bit of a, oh, someone else has already done it, I'm not the first. How did they cope with it? What can I do now?
Yes.
Yeah. Darlene, what are you looking forward to now? You've got, your horse, your show jumping, your big chestnut thoroughbred.
Yes.
You've got students at competitions. What are you looking forward to? What's your plans?
Well, with my current horse, and my ultimate dream is to compete a circuit on the mainland. Obviously, being here in Tasmania, I would like to get him to a point doing really well here, but taking him to the mainland and just facing him off against some more horses, different style competitions, different ways of running it. That would be, that's one of my bucket list items is simply to do that. It's not a cheap exercise. It's quite expensive, travelling them over on that little bit of water. But then to further develop myself, to become a better instructor, to be able to help people in different ways, looking at different courses, thinking outside the box. So not necessarily horse-related, but could I take a course in assisting people who are slightly disadvantaged, either socially or medically, and how can I then take that information, bring it back into horse riding and continue to help others? That's the area I'd like to head into.
Yeah, that sounds good. Darlene, just your philosophy with horses now, would you be able to sum it up in a couple of sentences?
I can never lose sight of why you started riding. Even when you have your highs and your lows, the passion, the love, the friendships you make along the way, be kind and keep learning.
Yeah, something to reflect on, isn't it? Losing sight of why you started, and always keeping things real. Why am I doing this? What is it? Am I still getting out of it what I feel I need to get out of it? And sometimes you just got to stop and reflect and appreciate everything that you are getting out of it.
Yes, Yeah, and it could be the little wins.
Mm.
You know, you may have had a rough couple of weeks, but you get on your horse and you just go for a hack out.
Yep.
And you go, oh, yeah, this is why.
Yes. Okay, Darlene, how can people contact you?
So all my contact information is on the Equestrian Australia website under the coaches section. So it's my email address, my mobile phone number. I am based down in Tasmania, in southern Tasmania at that, but all my contact details are on the Equestrian Australia website. And
we'll put those details on Horse Chats as well. So it'll be horsechats.com/Darlene Svamvur, but it's spelled SVAMVUR, or else just go to horsechats.com and search for Darlene and you'll find those details. Okay, so Darlene, thank you for talking to us today. I'm enjoying your journey. I have to talk to you a little bit more. I know that you really want to focus on supporting students and getting them more confident and overcoming their personal challenges. So it'll be good to keep talking to you and just follow along for people who are also interested in that. And it's great for people to ride and to enjoy their riding and to compete, and that's all part of it. But when they can have those personal challenges and overcome them as well, it's like icing on the cake, isn't it?
It is.
Mm. Okay, thanks, Darlene.
No, thank you very much.
Now, if you're still there, you probably know that I'm absolutely passionate about education within the horse industry. That's why I host this podcast. My other venture is Online Horse College. Have a look now at onlinehorsecollege.com and I'll see you over there.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.